First of all, he's sort of an idol in our household. I got the link to that 2005 YouTube years ago from my husband, who agreed with you. And I enjoyed this talk, but I have a background in finance. How do you plan on appealing to other people whose eyes are going to glaze over with all this economic talk? And what is your stance on other issues?
Well, I think my particular talent when it comes to economics is relating to people with analogies and keeping things very simple. And I have an ability to get people to understand what other people think are complex things and make it very simple and explain it in a way that lay people can really understand it. That's kind of what I've been doing for years. I've been doing this on an individual basis with my clients, and I think I can relate to voters the same way. And I think as the economy continues to worsen, people are going to start to get very suspicious of the promises coming out of Washington, because it's going to keep getting worse. The unemployment rate's not going down. It's going to keep going up. Inflation is going to keep going up. And people are going to feel that in their pocketbooks. And they're going to be looking for an alternative, because they just can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But that's what insanity is. And hopefully most of the voters are sane, and they'll understand that they need a real change. As far as the other issues, I think the issue is the economy. Because if the economy collapses, we're not going to be able to afford to defend the country. A lot of things are going to collapse if our whole economy collapses, and the government is just, as I said, going to seize so much power. Whenever there is a crisis, the government uses that crisis to its opportunity to expand and usurp additional powers, and so that is very, very problematic. I'm not, if you want to ask me specifically about other issues, I'm not,
Afghanistan?
Well, I'm for free trade. I personally, I would drop all trade barriers. I think any kind of tariff hurts us. It doesn't hurt our trading partners. So I don't even think we should have negotiations about trade. We should just have no tariffs. That's fine, just whatever. If anybody, there's no reason that the U.S. government should say that Americans can't buy products or sell overseas. But what we need to do is understand why we have this huge trade deficit. That's a huge problem. We can't do that. We can't keep importing $40, $50 billion worth of merchandise every month and go into debt to do it. And we can't keep outsourcing our jobs to other countries and pretend that that's economic growth. It is not. So what we need to do is understand why we have these trade deficits. Why is our economy so uncompetitive? It's because of the layers and layers of regulation. It's because of our runaway legal system. We have 10 times more lawyers per capita than any other country in the world. We can't be competitive with all these lawyers screwing things up. And we need lower taxes on corporations. We have to have the highest corporate tax rates in the world. How can we be competitive? But of course, we got this huge government to finance. So if we want to shrink taxes, we got to shrink government first. And if we do that, we'll be a competitive economy. But right now, we're not. You can't manufacture competitively in this country, not because of the wage differentials, because of everything else. Back in the 1950s, we had the highest wages in the world, yet we had a trade surplus. Look at Germany. Look at Japan. Workers in those countries earn more than workers in America, yet they have trade surpluses. Those countries have trade surplus with China. Why can't we have a trade surplus with China? We could if we had a free market, but we don't. We have this huge government undermining our economy. And as far as Afghanistan and defense, I don't think we should be in Afghanistan personally. But I think that the main function of the federal government is national defense. That's why it's there. In fact, the founding fathers weren't even going to give the U.S. government the power to tax. And the only reason they got it is because they said, "What about a war? What if there's a war? Oh, okay, we'll have to have taxes because there might be a war." But they didn't even think that they would be taxing us during peacetime. It was for emergencies. And in fact, the taxes were very low up until the Second World War. That's when they first introduced the withholding tax. Even though they had an income tax in 1913, no one paid it until 1942 with a victory tax. So before that, no one paid an income tax, no one paid a Social Security tax. Taxes were negligible. But now, when we're being taxed to death because we've got this enormous government to feed. I want to starve it. I don't want that huge government. We have to just start slashing programs.
Peter?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Chris Dodd has a big war chest, and that anybody that runs against him is going to have a big war chest. Do you feel you'll be able to put together that war chest to fight him? Because he has the unions, he's got all.
Yeah, he's going to get money from all the special interests whose pockets he lines, right? Chris Dodd pretends he's a man of the people. He's not, unless the people he's the man of are working at Goldman Sachs. He is lining their pockets. I mean, Goldman Sachs just had record profits. 90% of their profits came from proprietary trading. None of it came from, mergers and acquisitions or investment banking or asset management. They just took all that cheap money, courtesy of their buddy, Chris Dodd, and they gambled with it. And they knew that if they bet wrong, Chris Dodd was going to be there with another bailout. And if they bet right, record profits for them. So yeah, Wall Street's going to give Chris Dodd a lot of money. All these special interests are going to give him, but no ordinary people are going to give him a quarter. He's not going to raise any money from any regular people. But I'm going to raise money. Look, last quarter, I raised more money than any other Republican candidate. I wasn't even in the race. I raised over $1 million. And I'm going to raise a lot more money. I've got, a fan base around the country that will send money to me. I've got, so I can get in there and get money from all over the country, not from special interests, but from individuals whose only interest is liberty and freedom and the Constitution. They want me in Washington because they want me there, because they have confidence that I'm one of the only people that can make a difference if he gets there. So there's people that are committed to what I want to do. And I have a lot of people who will volunteer for my campaign, a lot of young people. Unfortunately, it's hard for people to get jobs right now, so they can volunteer to work in my campaign. I mean, I get emails from all around the world. High school, college kids from other countries want to come here and work on my campaign. And, so I think I'm going to have a lot of volunteers. No one's going to volunteer to work for Chris Dodd. Why would they? So he's going to have to pay everybody to work for him. I'll get a lot of, people working for free because they believe in the cause, and I'll raise money. And if I have to, I'll throw in some of my own. But, I think if I get enough people behind me, that I can win, especially since he's so unpopular. He has to overcome that. I mean, right now, in the polls, I'm neck and neck with Chris Dodd, and no one even knows who I am. They're willing to vote for me just because I'm not Chris Dodd. So, I think if a few people, get to know me, I think I'll pick up a few more votes, and then I should be able to win.